Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 684 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about a powerful and easy thing to implement called a cost comparison. This is a copywriting technique to make people feel like your product or service isn't really that expensive compared to the big benefit they'll receive by purchasing. So we'll get to that in a minute. Hope you didn't miss episode 683. In that copywriting episode, I talked about the reason why technique. You got to give people a reason why you might be discounting, and you want to discount because that stimulates loads of sales. So that was episode 683. Anytime you want to get to a back episode, you go to screwthecommute.com/ and then the episode number. That was 683 for the reason why. This is 684 for cost comparisons. Hey, make sure you follow me on TikTok. I'm starting to really take off there. Loads and loads of cool training, short videos over there. Check it out at tiktok.com/@digitalmultimillionaire. I think you'll really enjoy the content and you can get through it fast. And I want to thank everybody that's contributing to Patreon. We just started a Patreon to fund our scholarship program for persons with disabilities. It starts as little as $3 a month. And you got hundreds and literally over 300 training episodes and almost 400 interviews. All right. So I think kicking in a little bit of money per month, I'm not taking a nickel for myself. It's all going to the scholarship program. So check it out at screwthecommute.com/Patreon. All right, let's get to the main event. Cost comparisons. Well, some of the things in copywriting are what I call beautifully illogical. All right, but they work like a charm. Now, I didn't say fraudulently illogical, did I? No, I don't push any kind of copywriting techniques that have anything to do with lying. All right, so this is perfectly legit technique. Now, there's two major cost comparisons. The first one I call comparing apples to oranges, and the second one, I don't really have a name for it, but it's comparing something good that's expensive to something cheaper that's better. All right, so let's start with apples to oranges. Oh, and don't forget to download a copy of our automation ebook at screwthecommute.com/automate free. You will thank me because it's going to save you enormous amounts of time. That's for sure. All right, apples to oranges. And let's say I'm going to give you an example for one of my professional speaking products. All right, here's the line that's comparing apples to oranges. For the cost of a cup of Starbucks a day, don't have to say Starbucks, but for the cost of a cup of coffee a day, you could be getting standing ovations around the world. All right, so in the apples and oranges techniques, you're putting it in your prospect's mind that the cost of acquiring your product or service is actually very small compared to the big benefit they will derive from your product or service. Now, on to the illogical part of this, all right, the apples and oranges technique. I usually ask my mentees why this is illogical. And many say, or almost everybody says, well, coffee has nothing to do with speaking, and that's absolutely true, but it's not the answer. The answer is that I never mentioned how many days. You could be buying coffee for 10,000 days, right? But nobody even asks that. That's why it's beautifully illogical. They just compare a relatively small amount of money, not that coffee's all that cheap anymore, but compared to getting standing ovations around the world, wow, yeah. Now, you can substitute different big benefits in this formula and test which one resonates with the bulk of your audience. For instance, I could have said the cost of a cup of coffee, you could be, for the cost of a cup of coffee, you could be getting paid to fly first class. Or I could have said you could be getting paid for your knowledge. Or I could have said for the cost of a cup of coffee, you could have them rolling in the aisles, like if I wanted to emphasize my humor training. Let's say you sold gardening stuff, and I don't know anything about gardening. but anyway, you could say, for the cost of a few seedlings, you could be the envy of your entire neighborhood, or you could be elected as president of your garden club, or win first prize at every competition you join. I don't really know. I somehow kill every plant that I get near. So don't quote me on this, but use the formula if you sell gardening stuff. Again, you're putting it into your prospect's mind that the cost or investment is really actually very low to get that big benefit that you so desperately want. That's the idea here. Okay, so that's comparing apples to oranges. All right, the next cost comparison, I don't really have a name for, like apples to oranges, so I'll just explain it. You will compare something that's good and expensive to something that's cheaper that's even better. Let me say that again. You'll compare something that's good and expensive to something that's cheaper that's even better. All right, so here's an example I would use if I was still working, speaking in the corporate market. All right, here it is. You could spend $20,000 to have Tom come in to do a training for your company, plus travel, plus an assistant, plus meals and per diem, or you could invest in his corporate internet and digital marketing training kit for only $599 per 1,000 employees, and you won't be forced to learn everything in one day. Plus, you can show a module in your weekly meetings, and key employees can review the material 24/7. All right, so yeah, I would have done a great job for them with all the add-ons. It might push 25 grand, but for only like $599 for the training package, they would get all the benefits I just listed above. And see, something expensive that's good, I'm comparing to something cheaper that's better. And I personally would rather sell hundreds of the $599 training packages and never have to leave the house than do the one-day job. Now, let's bring it down some. Let's say you wrote a book on how to have an amicable divorce where everybody wins. So you might say, you could spend thousands of dollars to retain attorneys for both you and your spouse and watch them fight things out while continuing to bill you with no end in sight. Or for only $37, you could invest in the knowledge in my book that will help you have a smooth, stress-free divorce with minimal legal fees. All right, now, I'm not saying that the first part of this one is good. All right, having attorneys fighting each other on an hourly basis mostly isn't good for you and your pocketbook, okay? But it does illustrate the amounts of money and stress a divorced couple will most likely experience without the knowledge in your book, see? So this works for all kinds of products and services. And speaking of divorce, the old joke is marriage is grand, but divorce is 200 grand. Or my favorite is, did you hear about the Barbie divorce doll? Yeah, it comes with everything Ken had. So the formula for this is to show them how much something should or could cost, and then show them how your solution is better and cheaper. All right, now one last thing about comparisons, and that is there are charts that actually name your competitors and check mark all the great things you do and show how the competitors don't do as much. You've seen these on all software and all kinds of things. Well, I changed that around a little bit. I don't really name my competitors because many of them, all right, not all, but many of them are total ripoffs, and I don't want people to even know about them. Now, they are super great salesmen and saleswomen, but they totally rip you off, so I don't do that. But anyway, cost comparison charts can really sell a lot for you. So what I do is I just give you a list of questions to ask when you are comparing what is offered by different mentors. Now, if you want a copy of my LAD, Now, this is a term I coined to mean learning ad, a lad. Just visit screwthecommute.com/LAD and you'll learn the method, and it's literally made me millions of bucks. So you'll see how you could formulate a similar document for your products and services. So check it out at screwthecommute.com/lad. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks. Please contribute to Patreon, screwthecommute.com/Patreon. And I will catch you on the next episode. See you later.